anchor and report, right?
Absolutely. No, that was an era, golden era of the anchor.
That's it.
Now it's in the rear view mirror.
Totally. All right,
Some channels here. Let me
anchor and report.
There we go. Okay, we're back.
Yeah.
So I'll do my tweet. You address your faithful, and then I'll remind you to retweet whatever.
I think I can handle that.
We've only done it 300. Whatever. What number is this?
326. This is number 326.
Okay.
From the new studio. We looking okay here in the new studio? It's the same studio. You know what it is that we got to get it soundproofed, not just for me, but for others who live in the house. As you know, Mike, you're in the basement here. And so, I'm looking at like egg cartons and foam and stuff like that. More, rugs on the floor.
Yeah, carpet does a nice job. Absolutely.
Carpet does a nice job here. Should I put a carpet in here?
I went into IKEA. I went to the, that section where people like have returned stuff and it's all heavily discounted, whatever that section is. So I went and I found like a brown rug, threw it down here. And with these mics anyways, my mic is just a bit better than yours, but it does the job nicely, absorbs the noise nicely.
All right. Fortunately, I'm a professional broadcaster, and mic technique is one of the first things you learn at great broadcasting school, right? Not to pop your P's and, to work the mic a certain way. And people fall in love with their own voice, of course, because of, they hear themselves through headphones. Oh, my, and they're so enamored by their own voice that they're really not paying attention to maybe the content or some of the other surroundings. Oh, I've got good mic. How low can you go? Stuff like that.
No doubt, yeah, because when you hear it in the headphones, there's a little compression on it, and you just sound ballsier. It's like I should just walk. That
was always the way. That's why when you hear someone like Chris Cuthbert, that's not a traditional voice. Chris is an outstanding broadcaster, but his vocal timbre, his range, is on the very high part of the register.
Oh, for sure.
Totally something that's not that Bill Hewitt and Danny Gallivan had like deep voices, that kind of a thing. But, for the most part, that's the traditional, you don't sound like a broadcaster. You'll never be a broadcaster. Why not? Well, you just don't have the voice for it.
But I actually think you have a very deep voice, unless it changed through the years. Which
it's not so much that it's deep; it's expressive. People can sound the same thing and make like they're reading the phone book, right? And they could make it sound interesting. And then there's others who could have the most exciting thing in the world to talk about and make it sound bland. Like the Detroit Tiger announcers the other day. The guy's name is Shepard, and I don't know his first name, but he just sounds like, he just sort of woke up out of bed and the Tigers have scored 2 runs here in the 5th. And, whoa, it's horrible. And, you compare that to Dan Schulman, who has a deep voice as well, but he's got expression in his voice. He's got enthusiasm in his voice. He's got, I don't know, all the je ne sais quoi, but there's something about it that's a commanding presence. And this guy for Detroit was just, they're trying to make the team this year. Horrible. Just awful.
Right.
And there are many of those now, who just didn't go through the same, they didn't go to broadcasting school or take journalism necessarily or whatever. For whatever reason, they were found, could have been on the internet, could have been on YouTube, whatever the case. And it's like, what? Yeah, you're perfect. You're going to work for us. Come on, be a sportscaster. Like a lot of the people I think who were at Sportsnet, I don't think they went to, I think they went to the College of Sports Media. Okay. And I haven't seen the curriculum to know. I haven't seen enough people who graduated from there that have, made their mark, quote unquote, on in the broadcasting business. Like, here's a great success story. It's great to say it's a success story from someone who came from this particular college and now they're on the air. But there's so many people that are on the air, right? That in various capacities. It used to be like, how'd you get that job? Well, I went to school for it, and I went to worked in this small town and for that organization and worked my way up. Now it's like sort of like a one and done. Like if you go to this school, we guarantee you're going to have a job on the air and broadcasting. Am I wrong saying that?
Well, I don't know if it's a guarantee, but they have.
But for the most part, they say if you're pretty good, we'll get you a job. Maybe not necessarily on the air, but pretty much because we know.
It's interesting. There's so we'll talk about this in this episode, but there's so many so many fewer jobs in 2023 than there might have been back in the day, right? Like I feel like I
don't know about that though, because there's so much all sports programming. You've got 2 all sports networks. Think of all the different people. If you watch TSN for a day and you watch Sportsnet for a day, How many different on-air personalities are you going to see? Whether they're reporters, anchors, play-by-play guy, color guy, between periods person, sideline reporter, panelists, anyone who speaks on the air. Think of how many, hundreds. Am I right?
You're right.
Anyway, we're going to talk about that a little later on because we're, of an article in Sports Illustrated by John Wertheim, which is basically the death of the local sportscast. How news, weather, and sports just doesn't exist anymore, and fewer people are watching their local station, their local news. They're getting their information way before it comes on television, and they're getting it from various sources that are probably better sources than the local news. And with that, Mike.
And that, you ready to rock?
No. Am I not supposed to post something here?
Oh, you haven't? Oh, my goodness gracious. Mr. Hebsy, do that right away. Come on. You got to
retweet this, okay? Come on, we're live.
Yeah, absolutely. Retweet that tweet, brother. Get the...
Okay, brother. Get ready to go here, brother.
I'm talking like Hulk Hogan now. Hurry up. Get that
brother.
tweet out there, brother.
Come on, brother. Let's go.
I kind of like calling people brother. It's fun.
It's good. It's a good way to. It's a good handle. Buddy. Buddy is what I call my kids, and I don't know. I guess my friend, like, hey, bud, buddy, hey, but like that guy. It's a go-to for me.
Like like the captain in Gilligan or whatever. Like, hey, little buddy.
Well, not little buddy, but I got you. I hear you. All right. As soon as I hear the music, Mike, I know that.
Are you ready to rock? Okay, here we go. Let's do it.
Hey there, sports fans. Welcome to Hebsy on Sports, episode number 326. I'm your host, Mark Hebscher, along with Toronto Mike, and we have a full menu today. Not just finger food. We got everything. We got the whole enchilada, but we don't have enchiladas. The teams I follow, of course, are always top of the list. That's the Maple Leafs, the Raptors, the Blue Jays. Two more NHL players using their faith as an excuse to not support LGBTQ+, to not support inclusion. Two more? What the fuck is going on here? This is becoming a joke. The NHL's got to do something about this nonsense. We should be talking about the games, not these people that have decided that selfishly that it's their own crusade here. The World Baseball Classic was indeed a classic, but can they make it even better? Yes, they can. Go to a best-of-3 series. Can you imagine? The Blue Jays have 7 of the top 100 players in baseball, according to some experts at ESPN. We'll talk about that. Whatever happened to news, weather, and sports on your local TV station? The death of local sportscasters, of which I was one. We'll have a postmortem later. Also, tennis, golf, March Madness. And Mike, I got my first migraine yesterday. First, I was a virgin.
Wow.
I got my first migraine yesterday, and I was scared. I never experienced that before, but it wasn't the ones I had heard of, in the head where you feel as if, your head's going to explode or whatever. It wasn't that. It was in my eye, my left eye, where suddenly I'm blinking and it's like someone took a flash picture of me, but the flash didn't go away. Like it usually does after 4 or 5 blinks, you get back to normal.
Okay, how long did this last?
Oh, a few hours. And I took a couple of Advil and I lied down and first thing I did was went to Google, what happens when you're seeing kaleidoscope or the flash won't go away or whatever, halos.
Right.
And so all of these were part of the description. Yes, there was a halo. Yes, there was a bright light. It wouldn't go away. Was my eye throbbing? No. Was it in pain? No. But there was all these other symptoms, and I'm trying to read this with a bad eye on, the Google. Right? I'm like, right. What the hell? So, okay, what did your mom always tell you? Take 2 aspirins and lie down, or So that's what I did. Took a couple of Advil, lied down, and woke up an hour or so later, and I was fine. But I was scared. I thought I was like losing my sight, and I've heard the stories of all these people. Oh, you lose your sight, and you're going, yeah.
Is this topic coming back in the actual?
Happens
episode?
To you?
Are we going to revisit this? Or is this is this topic coming back in the actual episode, or is this just the anecdote in the intro?
Like, what, did I get here before you or something? What?
No, because if you're going to revisit the headache later in the episode, then
I might have to if you keep this up.
Okay. Because I have a timely headache story. That's all.
Well, then let's hear it. I mean, if we're on the subject of headaches,
All right.
Let's
all
let's
right.
go.
Let's
I'm
do it
sure
real
everyone
quick.
listening.
Because you're
I'm sure everyone
describing.
listening has had some
I
kind of
also
a
don't
headache.
get. I also don't get migraines. So I had what you're describing, except it was all around and it was like pressure cooker in my head. Except it lasted 4 days. Okay.
Wow.
I know. And then I went to emergency because my doctor said you might have a brain bleed.
What?
Anyway, this is yeah. So this is a couple of weeks ago, I guess. We've already recorded since then. I actually recorded one episode of Hebsy on Sports during the headache. I was just taking all these Advils and trying to.
I would have
get
never
out of it.
known, Mike.
No, because
You're
I'm a
real pro
professional.
Yes, you are. You are a professional.
Long story short, because I've already lost half the Hebsy on Sports audience.
No, you've gained.
They
People
do
are tuned in. Hearing
they do it.
Wait a second. What do you mean Mike's talking about his migraines? Let's tune
Right.
in.
Well, they do a doc has at the ER does a CAT scan to rule out the brain bleed, and then he puts me in a room and says, because originally he thought it was migraines. He goes, "Mike, I was wrong. This is very rare. You have a blood clot on your brain." This is less than about 2 weeks ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I know. There you go. Welcome to Hebsy on Sports. And I have a blood clot. I'm Mike, and I have a blood clot on my brain.
And so what's the prognosis?
They put you on blood thinners right away. Like I had to spend the night in the hospital because they said you could have a stroke and we have to watch you. So I actually had my first ever night in a hospital in my life. And they put you on blood thinners right away. I take it twice a day. And essentially you wait. It takes 6 to 12 weeks for your brain to absorb the blood clot. In the meantime, you do get headaches, my friend. I just popped a couple of Tylenol for you. And you get headaches, but otherwise you're fine. I do that for you, Hebsy, man. But man,
I really feel terrible. I feel terrible now that
you feel bad about your 4-hour headache. I wish I had.
No. I feel bad that you have kept working through all of this and haven't been looking after yourself to the extent that you should be. You can't just shut down TMDS.
Well, do you shut
tell
down
all
something?
Of your clients, including me, hey man, because no one else can do what you do. So I see that you're feeling sort of that pressure, not that pressure of I got to go to work. It's like I watched MASH the other day, and Father Mulcahy had hepatitis, and he's like, I've got to be able to take confession. And they're going, no, you can't. And he's going, no, you don't understand. People are depending on me. We got to find a way. So you found a way through all of this to continue to work and stuff like that.
Well, because Hebsy, at the end of this all, which I should fully recover I have a hematologist, I have a neurologist. It's a big deal, but I take the blood thinners. They're going to see I might have a genetic, like a disease that makes you get blood clots, which means I'm on blood thinners forever. But in the meantime, the only symptom I have is a headache. So I do take the Tylenol and it dulls it, and then I can just do my work. I don't think I can shut it down because of a little headache, right? So here I am, but I'm excited to talk sports with you.
Okay, great. That's good. The big reveal by Toronto Mike. Good. I'm glad. But you're feeling better, right?
Yeah, other than the headache, I wake up and I pop the Tylenol and I kind of feel better. I feel fine right now. I still bike and everything. I'm not.
Okay, that's good. Okay, and what did they say about podcasting? Did they say, look, stay away from Hampshire because it's going to make it worse. Your head's going to explode.
As long as you don't punch me, because I could get internal bleeding from the blood thinners.
Promise I won't punch you. I promise. All right. So, wow, that's big news. But good, it's good, But you're still a sports fan.
I wasn't even going to bring that up, except you started talking about the headache, and I said,
glad you did.
I have a headache story for you.
Because you didn't want me going, what the fuck is wrong with Toronto Mike? He's just not himself. What the fuck is going on? I'm going to have to let him go. But now that you've explained what's going on.
I might be brain damaged. I get the MRI in May to confirm. So if I do confuse things, that's why. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, we're all wishing you the best here, and now let's get to the podcast here.
All right, let's do it.
So the Maple Leafs last night, they're in Florida, and I'm thinking, well, the game's in Toronto, right? Because the roar is incredibly loud. No, it's all the Leaf fans. Leaf fans travel best, and of course in Florida, that's second home to a lot of Torontonians, right? And people from the Leaf fans are from Ontario, whatever. It's Florida. It's not that far. 2.5 hours by plane? There you are. So, and it's March and people are, on holidays. So a huge contingent of Leaf fans down there to see the Leafs whip the Panthers 6-2. But unfortunately, the Staal brothers, Mark and Eric, decided to lean on their Christian faith and opted out of the warmup, which would have, seen them wear their Pride jerseys for 10 minutes during warmup with half the crowd there, just like the rest of their teammates. Once again, these selfish moves take away from the game itself, just like it did when James Reimer decided that his Christian faith was more important than real inclusion. Folks, it's becoming utter bullshit. I'm sick and tired of talking about it. I wish I didn't have to talk about it. The NHL has to step in. They have to find players. They have to find teams for interfering with the league's mandate to be inclusive. the NHL is inclusive, except for this guy and that guy and this team and that team. No, you're either all in or you're not. And the NHL cannot claim to be inclusive if it allows this to happen. Any player in the starting lineup who doesn't take warmups should be suspended. Got it? You're on the card. You're one of the 20 players. Is it 2018? There you go. Now you're not out there for warmups. Now an NHL official goes, where's so-and-so for warmups? Where's Staal? Where's the other Staal? No? Okay, suspended. Suspended. This is especially disconcerting because Eric Staal has participated in Pride Nights on at least 2 other occasions that I know of, with Montreal and with Minnesota. In fact, I know someone who has a signed Eric Staal Pride jersey from the Minnesota Wild, for crying out loud. So explain to that person how Eric Staal was an inclusive person and wore the jersey with pride and with all of his teammates. And now, no? If he wore the jersey then, why all of a sudden did he decline to do so last night? Fine and suspend him, NHL. Do it. Have some teeth. Because right now, Gary Bettman and company look like a bunch of fucking wimps, don't they? They do. Now, I know we should be talking about the game, but I know the players want to just play hockey. We just want to play hockey. But it's obvious that for the most part, the Russians are in the middle of most of these issues, notwithstanding the Staal brothers and James Reimer. But with regards to wearing a Pride jersey, even though Russian players like Sergei Bobrovsky of Florida, who went out for the warm-up last night wearing the Pride jersey, no problem. Evgeny Malkin, Gino Malkin of Pittsburgh, same thing. He wore it on the Penguins Pride Night, no problem. But most of the Russian players have declined. And some teams with Russian players, and 5% of the NHL is Russian, some teams have already canceled their Pride Nights. They canceled them. Philadelphia didn't cancel theirs, but they had the first problem with Prokhorov, who said, he claimed, I'm Russian Orthodox, and that religion prevents me from recognizing homosexuality. And we all went, And then the Rangers canceled their Pride Night, even after telling season ticket holders by email that the Pride Night was coming up and that you could go to a certain website and through auction, you could buy these signed Pride jerseys. And then they took the link down and then they said, nope, we're not having the Pride Night. And people are like, oh, wait a second, maybe because there's 3 prominent Russians on the team. Well, the goalie, Shesterkin, Panarin, and the other goalie, I can't think of his name, but he's Russian. Maybe that. What about in Minnesota, where they had a same thing? They had a link to the auction for signed jerseys, and then they took it down. And why is that? Well, there's Kirill Kaprizov from Minnesota who's Russian, and he had some visa problems last year. They gave him a hard time, and so Minnesota said, forget it. And now Chicago has canceled its Pride Night, likely because of the worries of Nikita Zaitsev, a Russian who has family back home in Russia. So here's the background, Mike, on this. Under Putin, Russia has passed several laws that restrict the rights of LGBTQ plus citizens. And in December, the New York Times reported that the country passed a new law that makes it, quote, illegal to spread propaganda about non-traditional sexual relations in the media, in advertising, movies, or on social media. Now, these are legitimate fears. I'm quoting here Ben Noble, associate professor of Russian politics at University of College of London. He said there are legitimate fears. If you put on a Pride jersey, then there is uncertainty regarding how this would be interpreted by law enforcement in Russia, and that's a risk. The authorities have the power to enforce this and other legislation selectively. It's up to them to decide whom they go after, end quote. Experts say the biggest impact this law has is casting the community as inappropriate, making it more invisible and subject to abuses. The new law is likely to push the LGBTQ community even further underground. And the new law also contains a ban on propaganda for pedophilia. And a leading independent news site, Medusa, said the combination, quote, looks like an attempt by Russia to put homosexuality and pedophilia in the same row, end quote. So, Mike, knowing that, what should the NHL do? What can the NHL do? There's still 14 teams that have Pride Nights scheduled, including the Leafs, who have a Russian player, Ilya Samsonov. Has anyone talked to him about a potential Pride Night? I know the Leafs have not come up with a particular date. Last year it was in April. But how do you feel about this?
What a clusterfuck. Like the whole thing, the whole Russian thing. We talked about that during the Olympic Games in Sochi. Like you couldn't show and a woman couldn't kiss her girlfriend, for example, after winning gold, right? Like I almost the Russian thing is a whole difficult. Like I'm dying to know your thoughts on the Russian thing, but what's really irking me is these Staal brothers and James Reimer, who I once adored so much. I bought a.
We're getting Mike. We're getting a lot of flashback from people. Okay, a lot of a lot of flack saying, "Hey, you got no right. It's an individual choice." And I'm looking at a lot of these, going, "Okay, I kind of don't see your point because if everyone else is doing it, and a lot of these guys are Christian, have Christian values, whatever, but they're doing it. Why can't you do it? Why can't we all be inclusive for 10 minutes wearing a pride jersey? I mean, but if it's that bad for these Russian players, then maybe the NHL shouldn't allow Russians in the league. Maybe if the European Union and like, there's no way you could have a World Cup of hockey because there's no way the European teams would allow the Russians to compete. So you're not going to, like Connor McDavid wants best on best. You're not going to get it if the Russians aren't playing. But still, you could still have a great tournament. I mean, there've been several terrific Olympics without the Russians or the Soviet backed countries involved. So why couldn't you have a World Cup of hockey without Russia? We're having Olympics without Russia. I don't understand.
Yeah, the junior tournament goes on without Russia.
There you go. So come on, the NHL had any teeth at all, it would just say, listen, this is the deal. If you're part of the roster that your team puts out there and you're not out for the warm-up, I don't care what the reason is, you're suspended. Okay? Now, if he goes out there for the warm-up and he's not wearing the pride jersey and every other guy on the team is, he looks like a bigger idiot. So go ahead out there. But for the team to say, then you're not participating in the warm-up, just draws more attention to it. No, make him go out there. And if he wants to do it without a pride jersey and everyone sees him, then let the fans go, you motherfucker. Fuck you. You asshole. Right?
Right.
That's how I would do it.
So let me hear your thought. Okay, so the Russian, that's a whole, I don't even know what to say about the Russian situation.
Look, here's the thing, okay? You're playing hockey, you're earning a living in North America, you've got family back home. Hey, is Russia the first country? You're telling me that no one's ever come to this country or played a professional sport that worried about their family back home? Okay. Well, if you're making enough money, then bring your family here. All right. But don't say, oh, no, I can't go out for Pride Night because my family back in Vidinsk, the law enforcement's going to go after them. Okay. That's the type of country you're in. You have the opportunity to leave and take your family. You have the means. Think of all the people that can't get out of there. Right. So, there's no dilemma here. Your family is living in a country that is, horrible. It's a horrible place. Okay. Get them out of there. But don't tell me I can't wear the pride jersey and be part of inclusion because if I do, then my family's at risk back in Russia. Get them the fuck out of there.
But what are your thoughts on somebody like a James Reimer who does not have family in Russia, as far as I know?
I just think it's such an excuse. It's just so thinly veiled. I mean, first of all, unfortunately, I know a lot. Like, I haven't read the Old Testament, but I know there's a lot of people I've spoken to who are like, well, it says in the Bible, blah. And I'm like, it does? I don't think it says that. Yeah, it does. Oh, yeah, it does. Because, New Testament, Old Testament. Yeah. So, it's easy to cherry pick. But I mean, it's pretty obvious. James Reimer plays on the Sabbath, wears, polyester.
Eats shellfish.
Whatever the case is, all right. Either you're either completely and 100% observant,
right,
of everything,
right,
and if you're not, then you can't just pick and choose. But I just think, I want to know who the higher authority is that said, you go ahead, you be your own person. Don't be like the rest of your teammates, because this is a team sport. This isn't like a tennis player saying, I'm going to default my match to you because of my religious beliefs or something like that, right? Like, for example, if I have to play a Russian player, I default to you, right? I'm not going to engage with you. I'll default. That's my reason. You're Russian. You killed my family, right? And you support it. Comes down to that. So there you go. And I'd be very interested to see how the Maple Leafs handle Pride Night, because if there's any problem with Ilya Samsonov, oh boy, you're going to have some shit fit. Let's just see 14 more teams, Mike. 14 more teams have scheduled Pride Nights. Let's see how many of them come off.
You know what?
This has been a huge clusterfuck.
Yeah, absolutely. And I detest hearing somebody, demonstrate what I deem to be homophobia and bigotry and hiding behind faith. Like, to me, you can't don that jersey for 50 minutes to tell that gay boy or girl that, you're welcome in this sport. Like, essentially, you can't do it. It's as if donning the jersey means now, okay, now it's absolutely to show support to members of the community that they're welcome in the sport of hockey.
But it also shows you that, how terrible the Russian regime is, that they've enacted this law.
Well, and we knew that
you're part of this. If you, right? If you show the fear, they know they got you now. They got, like, what happened with Eric Staal? Like, how do you, are you telling me that he grudgingly, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to be a good teammate? Good for you. And now it's like, no, I don't want to be a good teammate anymore. I'm a good Christian. No, but what about all the other good Christians on your team? What about them? And what kind of discussions have been going on behind the scenes?
Wow.
Anyway, and more hockey now. Connor McDavid hoping to become the first player in 30 years to score 70 goals in a season. Why? Because he just reached the 60 mark and there's like 12 games to go. Wow. He can do it. He's averaging like almost a goal a game, right? 60 and 72. Well, okay, he could do it. Especially if he grabs a hat trick here and there. But he's the one who's like, they asked him, hey, he said, did you watch the World Baseball Classic? Oh, yes, I did. Wasn't that the greatest thing I ever saw? Shohei Ohtani against Mike Trout. This is sensational. Why can't hockey have this? I want to see the World Cup of Hockey make a comeback. I would love to play against the best on best, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's great, Connor, but you know what's going on? Russia and Ukraine, the chances of seeing you take on the likes of Ovechkin is unlikely, virtually impossible at this point. Okay, it robs hockey fans of a classic matchup, blah, 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 but come on. I think McDavid needs to understand that, while he's frustrated at the political roadblocks involved, the Putin regime is not interested in backing down from a military standpoint. Oh, Connor McDavid? Well, no, we have to play. No, give a shit. Okay? So we can engage their hockey players. We just can't do it. We can't. By the way, shouldn't the World Baseball Classic be a best of 3 final, Mike? I mean, it's sort of sad, a one-off game. Like,
but that's why it was so exciting. It's like a Super Bowl. Like, I kind of
No, but that's just it. It. Think about this. The greatest best of 3 final in the history of sport was what?
I don't know. Canada and
6-5, 6-5, 6-5.
Right.
And if you remember in that 87 Canada Cup, I know it's a while ago, but you can see it on YouTube.
I remember.
All 3 scores are 6-5. And in 2 of those 3 games, a team blew a 3-goal lead. And in the other one, a team blew a 2-goal lead. So it was it was so back and forth, so edge of your seat, 6-5, 6-5, 6-5. Okay. What happened was after the first game, which Russia won 6-5, I remember going, thank God it's not a one-off tournament. Thank God it's not like the gold medal game. We lose. Right. We lose. But we had a chance. And this was where the drama takes place. Just imagine, if you will, ladies and gentlemen, listeners, viewers, imagine if after Ohtani strikes out Trout, all right, the next day, game 2 of the series, Trout hits a home run off Ohtani in the 9th to win the game and tie the series and send it to a third and deciding game. And then in game 3, the 2 meet again in a critical moment. Wouldn't that have been spectacular?
Hebsy, you're dreaming in Technicolor. Okay,
Why?
we got the brilliant conclusion. You have no idea what would happen in game 2 or 3.
No, you don't think Trout, you don't think the world want to see, does Trout get a rematch against Ohtani? Yeah, 4 years from now. No, it's too late. No. The next day, Trout, they go to Trout before the game. What do you think? He said, I'd like to get another shot at him. What about you, Ohtani? Well, I'd like to see if I could do. Oh, yeah, that's the drama. That's the beauty of it.
But what a finish, Hebsy. It's as if it was scripted, right? Like, what a brilliant way to end that.
I get it, but not as much. It would have been if there was bases loaded. He was the tying runner. He had to hit a home run. What if he singles? What if he beats Ohtani and hits a single, and then the next guy strikes out or the next guy pops out? It wouldn't have been the same, right? It wouldn't have been the same because it wasn't Trout. The next guy, I think, was it Nolan Arenado or whoever it was a great player. But that, of course, 2 teammates, right? The unicorn against them, that was lovely. It was lovely. But, I mean, Ohtani just totally dominated him. It would have been great if it was like 10 pitch at bat. And Trout hooked one just foul, almost hit a home run to tie it. And then,
like Roy Hobbs.
That would have been, yeah. Anyway, let's go to basketball now. The Raptors still walking that tightrope that is the play-in tournament. Oh. Jesus Christ, the team looks like a bunch of Carl Walendas up there. Almost falling over. Currently, the Raptors in 9th place, which it seems they've been in 9th for like the last few weeks. And after that loss to Indiana this week, oh my God, that was horrible. They're a game back of 8th place Atlanta. And like I said, you want to get in that 7-8 game. I mean, if you finish 8th, or if you're in the 7-8 game, you play Miami in Miami. It's one game. All right. And if the Raptors can get there, they can get there. Even if they lose to Miami, they get a chance. If they lose that game, they play the winner of the 9-10 game. Yep. Anyway, so right now they're in 9th. They host lowly Detroit tonight. They got to beat Detroit. We're not sure of the status of Scotty Barnes, Gary Trent Jr., and Precious Achiuwa, but unlikely to see any of the three of them. And if so, they're not going to be anywhere near 100%. Atlanta hosts Indiana tomorrow. We're hoping that those three Canadians who play for the Pacers can do to the Hawks what they did to the Raptors the other night. They killed us. Ben Mathurin, O'Shea Brissett, and Andrew Nembhard combined for 49 points the other night. Three Canadians started against the Raptors in Toronto and beat the Raptors. All right? I didn't like that at all. Meanwhile, the NCAA tourney, remember the March Madness, they called it, right, Mike?
Right.
It's a big deal every year.
Yes.
It's not such a big deal this year because there's too much other stuff going on. Now, the issue initially was, Mike, remember, I had said, well, the World Baseball Classic is going on during spring training and there's March Madness, whatever. And how are they going to find? And of course, I was like other people totally wrong. It was spectacular. But March Madness to me kind of got pushed aside. Like, you know what? It's like, oh, you know what? I haven't got time for all the, playing games and all that. I'm watching the World Baseball Classic. So the Sweet 16 is going on right now. My bracket was busted like really early. Purdue went down in the first round. Zach Edey from Toronto, 7'4". They got eliminated. Boom.
Yeah, that sucked. That's only the second time that's happened in the history of this tournament. A one seed going out in the first round.
Right. And so because of that and a few other things, and people got their brackets busted, there's other things to do. It wasn't as interesting to me. 4 games tonight in the South and Midwest regionals. Florida Atlantic beat Tennessee yesterday. So Florida Atlantic's going to play Kansas State in one of the Elite 8 matchups. You got Gonzaga taking on UConn in the other Final 8 matchup. And then you got games tonight to decide the other entrance into the Elite 8. Just so much going on, man. And there isn't one particular team. Like I said, a lot of the big teams have gotten knocked out. So it's great to see underdogs. And in that type of format, single knockout, you're done. But not for the final of the World Baseball Classic. No, please make it a best of 3 next time. Thank you. ESPN has released its top 100 Major League Baseball players this year, and there are 7 Blue Jays on the list. Mike, who's the number one player on the list? Top Major League Baseball. Easy. Slam dunk.
Ohtani.
Yeah. Number 2?
Trout.
Yeah. How about that? Hey, number 3 is Aaron Judge.
Okay.
Top J is Vladimir Guerrero Jr., number 16.
Okay.
So he wins a Gold Glove at first base.
Mm-hmm.
He's, his numbers were down last year, but still pretty good. 16. I'd like to, can I make a wager somewhere? Can I get a bet down somewhere that next year at this time, he's going to be in the top 10? I mean, there's some really good ball players there, but man, 16. If I'm Vladdy, I'm like, I'm better than that. Bo Bichette, next Blue Jay at number 49. Alek Manoah, 51. George Springer is rated the 63rd best player in Major League Baseball. Matt Chapman, the 82nd best player in baseball. Kevin Gausman is, according to ESPN's experts, the 85th best player in baseball. And newcomer Dalton Varsho is the 93rd best player in Major League Baseball. With all that talent, Mike, the Jays should be going places this year. Can they win the division? It's never easy in the American League East. But to the playoffs and beyond this year for the Blue Jays.
Can't wait, Hebsy. This is the time of year I love because it's starting to warm up. Supposedly starting to warm up out there. We got Blue Jay baseball coming back to town. Can't wait, buddy.
By the way, Major League Baseball, with all the changes, some of the ads they put out are hysterical. They've got one with Oh man, it's just so funny. It's is it Kyle Schwarber? I'm trying to think who it is. Anyway, it's one of the big guys running the bases. And he's looking at the base going, "Oh, the bases are bigger this year." And his manager from the Mets is Buck Showalter. And Buck Showalter is going, "He's not thinking of stealing second, is he?" Daniel Vogelback. Anyway, he's not thinking of stealing second, is he? And then the guy is like, "I could steal a base here." Some very funny ads that are basically saying, look, we got new rules. The game is quicker. The game is more fun. The game's going to be more exciting. Game's not going to be the way it was. Check out the new Major League Baseball. You know, the stealing and the infield, the shift. There's one really funny one where there's 4 kids and they're all within 3 feet of each other around the shortstop position. You know, and the guy's going, "Oh, thank God they banned the shift, right? Come on, you guys, spread out," like stuff like that. It's very funny.
Hey, quick question from your YouTube channel. This is from Craig Miller. He's a great contributor to the family here. So he wants to know, did you have that list, that 100? Like, is Teoscar Hernandez on that list?
No. No. Go to ESPN. They got the list there. No, Teoscar Hernandez isn't on that list. He's not that good. It's not that good.
All right, Craig, you got your marching orders. Go dig it up. But
I mean, I've zipped through. I didn't see it. I mean, it's possible he is out there, but I zipped through the whole thing. I didn't.
If he's on that list, I'm going to isolate your last.
I think I would have been surprised if I was spotted Tasker. He might be between. If he's between 94 and 100. Because after Dalton Varsho, I didn't check out the rest of the top 100.
Gotcha.
I zipped through. Didn't see Teoscar Hernandez on the list. By the way, Major League Baseball has told all its member teams that they will be evaluating the performances of bat boys and bat girls and may ask teams to get rid of them if they consider their performance to be, quote, substandard.
Wow.
So a warning out there. And I'm thinking
that be fast, right?
Pretty soon, Mike. That's right, because of the timing. But pretty soon, mascots may also be held to the same standard. You know what I mean? Because if you're distracted, but what if you're distracting the hitter or the pitcher, right? Some of that, that's a distraction. But yeah, bat boys and bat girls had better get out there and frickin' clean up fast, because as soon as the ball goes back to the pitcher, thrown back to the pitcher, the clock starts.
Remember when Kramer was a ball boy at the U.S. Open? And after you give us I know you love your tennis, and we're going to get a Hebsy tennis update here. I got to ask you a question at the end of the tennis talk about a different racket sport.
All right, sure, no problem. In tennis, both Bianca Andreescu and Leila Annie Fernandez are in action today in Miami. Bianca gets the number 7 seed, Sakari, the Finn. No, she Greek? She's Greek. So what, Finn? You know what it is, Mike? The flag is for both countries is white with blue.
Yes.
Right? And
No,
they don't. No, the Finland one's pretty simple. It's just white with like a blue big cross in it. But the thing is, when I think of it, I think of the flag next to. Whenever I see a performer, an athlete, generally a lot of times there's a flag of their home country next to them. But in golf and auto racing, they'll show it and stuff like that. And they don't show it as much in baseball or hockey or whatever. But when I see that,
you think of Finland. But I was, there's so many great Swedish tennis players in history. Like, what a country for producing tennis pros Sweden is. And then I think of like the other Scandinavian countries. Like, what's their problem? Like, where's the Finnish tennis stars? Am I missing them?
Are you missing them?
Like, are they out there and I just don't know about them? Like, it feels like Sweden dominates that part of Europe when it comes.
Well, if you compare the two nations when it comes to tennis, yes. Yes, okay. Sweden does dominate. Sweden definitely does. You've got some Norwegian players. But yeah, I really haven't gone. I haven't done the breakdown.
I mean, a court is a court. It's not like,
No, I got it. I'm still working on, look, Mike, I'm still working on Sardinia, Cyprus, and Elba. Those 3 nations, okay? I haven't got time for the Scandinavian nations yet.
Abel was I saw
the other one, you got to add Denmark, don't you? If you're talking Scandinavia, don't you have to add Denmark?
Sure, Copenhagen, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there we go. So we'll get into that at another time. Meanwhile, where was I? Bianca Andreescu from Canada. She gets the 2nd seed, Sakari of Greece. I think now, I'm not sure. While Leila Annie Fernandez gets the number 9 seed, Bencic. Bencic or Bencic. I think it might be Bencic. That's the way you say it. I really do. I've always been a stickler for proper pronunciation.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm going to announce someone's name, I have to find out from the person, from the source, how would you like it pronounced? There's a lot of people, athletes, I guess, who are like, just whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It's been mispronounced so many times in my life that I really don't care, just make sure that, you make sure it's correct on the check when you send me the check, that kind of thing. Anyway, Benchich. It's like Perisic. Anyway, that's the second round action. On the men's side, Denis Shapovalov is in action today against Guido Peja of Argentina. I think it Pella from Argentina. So I'm going to say that it's Peja, the two L's together. It's not Y in Argentine. It's J. Guido Peja. Whew.
That's a rare non-Italian Guido.
Well, if in Argentina there are plenty of lots of Italian background there. A lot of anyway. Tomorrow, Felix Auger-Aliassime, which is so easy to pronounce, it just rolls off the tongue. It gets the number 5 seed, Thiago Monteiro of Brazil. Thiago Monteiro sounds like a new Ford vehicle coming out, the electric. The 2020
Corinthian leather.
Thiago Monteiro with Corinthian leather. Anyway, that's the tennis story, Mike. Now, what's your little anecdote?
Okay, well, quickly, I'll update you on Teoscar Hernandez, who did make the top 100, but like you said, you bailed after 94. Teoscar's number 99.
Is he?
Thank you, Craig Miller. No, that's funny because you laughed.
Craig. Thanks, man. I did, but at least I said, like, I don't know about the top 100. I knew about the top 93 after Varsho.
Wow. Okay, and my question for you, because I know you're a racket sport fan. I know you play pickleball and you love your tennis, but have you ever heard of the sport padel? Padel. Padel.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's sort of a hybrid of those sports, right? Where did it originate?
I know it's big in Spain.
So Basque. I think it's a Basque sport. Yes.
Okay. I was at a house party, this past weekend with it's an owner of a franchise in the new Pro Padel League. There's a new Pro Padel League. There's a Toronto franchise, and one of the co-owners of this Toronto franchise is a guy named Sebastian Giovinco. You ever heard of this guy?
Of course.
I know. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I was hanging with Sebastian and all the other owners of this Pro Padel League. I had to Google Padel, but it's coming here, and I don't know where you can play it in Toronto, but I just wondered if you had heard of it, Padel.
I had, but I had not heard of the Pro Padel League, the PPL, and I didn't know Giovinco was an investor or whatever. Yeah. What did he tell you? Did you get some info? Where are they going to play? Yes. What are their team colors?
Well,
who's their top draft pick?
The team, though, the draft was on Monday, and our party was Sunday.
I missed it. I missed the draft, the PPL draft.
It wasn't on TSN. Okay, but the franchise,
it was on TSN 11.
Yeah, I'll just tell you the name of the Toronto franchise is Polar Bears. So Giovinco is a co-owner of the Toronto Polar Bears. There's 7 franchises, and the one thing I will tell you is that man, and we had a long chat, and I hope I'm not talking out of school here, but he would absolutely love to suit up for TFC again. Like, this is his primary goal. So
I got no TFC stuff today. That the team's fallen below the radar for me. It's too early.
Well, it might be fun for the fans.
I can't believe first of all, I can't believe they play in weather like this. I mean, honestly, I would never go and sit through a game like freezing. Like, I'd rather, it's like sitting through ice fishing, but that's another story. That's all to say. Well, good. That's nice that you were hanging with Giovinco. It's going to be tough in this league because you're going to have you got a pro rugby team. You're going to have a pro women's soccer team. You're going to have a pro women's basketball team. You're going to have a pro women's hockey team. You're going to have a lacrosse team. No, they're in Hamilton. You've got Argos. Man, that's a lot of, what other sport am I making? Oh, pro pickleball. You're going to have
I did hear that. So, now we have the Polar Bears and the Padel
League. What am I saying? You're going to have a second NHL team. That's going to be tough.
Where's that going to be?
How do you spell
Padel? So the Pro
like
Padel.
Paddle ball.
Yeah. Except I guess the Spanish influence, we say Padel.
But it's called paddle. It's like paddle ball. Padel.
Padel.
Paddle. Paddle
I
ball.
always think it rhymes with Rafael Nadal. Like, it rhymes with Nadal. It's Padel.
Right. Have you got the implement you use to hit the ball? Is it called a padel? Is that the padel?
It's a racket paddle? Of some sort. I haven't
racket of. Or paddle. Okay.
These are tough questions for me. But anyways, coming soon, Pro Padel League and the Polar Bears.
There you go. Hopefully you'll get some free tickets from your buddy Sebastian.
I think they might play in Miami. I'm not even sure they can. I'm not even sure we have a court here.
In golf, it's the WGC, the world, whatever it's called. It's match play, okay, in Austin, Texas. It's not stroke. Stroke play is when a bunch of guys go out there and whoever shoots the fewest number of strokes over 72 holes wins. And in live, it's whoever shoots the lowest score in 54 holes wins. Live is like talking about falling off the radar. But anyway, so the World Golf Championship match play, this is the final year for this event because it's boring. Because you go like 64, 128 guys, and you're in groups, you're in pools, so you could lose your first match or tie a match, and still advance to the next round out of the group stage. Blah 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 blah. So today we've got Nick Taylor, Adam Svensson, Mackenzie Hughes, Adam Hadwin, and Corey Connors all in action. None are playing each other, so there is no Canadian versus Canadian matchup here. And I'm not going to go through who won their matches, what their record is. It's I don't know, not that exciting to me. Okay, so there you go. There's your golf right there. A great article in Sports Illustrated this week by John Wertheim. John Wertheim, excellent writer and correspondent on 60 Minutes. The article is called "The Death of the Local Sports Anchor." And it made me think of all the sports anchors over the years that I either watched growing up, worked with as when I was an anchor, or continued to watch after I left, although not many of those because they don't exist anymore. Mike, remember when it used to be you tune on the local news and it was news, weather, and sports?
Absolutely.
News, weather, and sports with Tom Gibney, Christine Bentley, Lance Brown, Dave Duvall, right? That was the CFTO. Right. And then if it was City T. Gord Martineau, Ann Bruskowski, Peter Gross, Jim McKenny on sports, Debbie Van Kiekebelt, Ann Romer. The list goes on and on and on. Think of all the sports anchors, local sports anchors that would, as part of their sportscast would do a local story on a high school. City TV did that a lot, of course. Not anymore. There aren't any, except for Bubba O'Neill, my buddy at Channel 11 in Hamilton. All the local sports is taken up by the network anchors on either Sportsnet or TSN, right?
It's the end of an era, right, Hebsy? I actually, I grew up with these anchors you're talking about. Jim McKenny was a big deal to me. Jim McKenny, City TV News, and then so on, and just a different era. I suppose the internet killed the anchor. Is that what happened here?
Well, I mean, people can get their information before the allotted time of before the scheduled time of a television newscast, right? I mean, that's why they have 24-hour news stations. You can flip on CP24 and you can get the highlights before the 11 o'clock, sportscast or whatever the case. So yeah, that certainly had a lot to do. People already had that information. But to me, it was part of the happy talk. The happy talk was, right. The local anchor was, now time for sports. And, I did lots of, sports casts, right? 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it was on Global. For a long time, Jim and I did an early edition of Sportsline at 10 to 7 every night. We did 10 minutes. 10 minutes, half of it was previewing that night's show and what games we were going to show highlights of and stuff like that. But it was a legit sportscast. And then after a while, it was 8 minutes, and it was 7 minutes, and it was 4 minutes, it was 2 minutes. Then it was, we don't need you anymore. We can get the news person to read scores and highlights. And then after a while was, we don't even need the news person to do it anymore because these people, they're not tuned in for that. They know that. And if they want that information, they've got it at their fingertips. They're not tuning in for sports. Goodbye to all the local sportscasters. They're gone. They're all gone.
Oh, no, that's a Jim McKay line when the terrorist attack in 72. They're all gone. But not to depress you with that memory, but to go back to the sports anchors, etc. Like, what about the fact that we used to get, I would tune into City TV Sports and Jim McKenny would, for example, maybe talk about the Metro Bowl or whatever, or the high school OFSA semifinals. Like, we just completely...
Local sports. Local.
Yeah. So what happened? You don't. That's nowhere. Like, where would you follow that, or just people just don't care about the fact that the Runnymede now they used to be, they had a name that they changed, but the Runnymede basketball.
Yeah. Here's the issue. The issue is this: the networks are sending people to the Leaf day of game practices, right? They're battling each other to see, what were the line combos, and get them out on Twitter and stuff like that. But also, it's to promote the game that's going to be on their network that night.
Yes.
Or right. It's all a promotional machine. So
right.
You don't have time to go out and do a local story, even though there are lots of people in the GTA that are interested in local sports. You're not going to get it. There's no coverage there. When I was growing up, there was a thing called Metro Cable, Mike. Metro Cable, and they used to show Toronto Towers basketball games and not Canadian Italian Hockey League, but they would show Ryerson Hockey and St. Mike's Hockey, stuff like that. There were games that were broadcast, or there were, they would have, people that would volunteer at the, local cable company, Newton Cable, McLean Hunter Cable, Scarborough Cable, Metro Cable. And they would, they would do games. They had a remote, they would go out to various events and they would broadcast games, all kinds of ways to, to view local sports if you wanted to. Now, unless somebody goes out and shoots a minor game or something like that on their own phone, you're not going to see stuff like this. So it's dead. It's too bad. It's too bad. It's been taken over by the TSNs and Sportsnets of the world. In the States, it's ESPN and Fox Sports. Really very few stations now that have that local sportscaster. In the article, though, it talked about how the local sports anchor was like a god, walked among, it's like, everyone knows that person. Everybody knows the local sportscaster, right? We see you're on our television all the time, right? You're omnipresent, 6 and 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 5, whenever the news was. Right. When I started at Global, they said, we're going to do it at 5:30. We're going to do a 5:30 newscast and you're going to be the sports anchor on the 5:30 newscast. Really? So, at 10 to 6 every day, right? Before, that was unbelievable. Unbelievable, because The Young and the Restless was 4:30 to 5:30, and they wanted to keep that audience. They wanted to keep those housewives and soccer moms or whatever who are now going to prepare dinner after watching the Y&R. Keep them. There's John Daw. There's Susan Hay. There's Martha Howlett. There's Mark Hebsy. Let's have some fun. So that's what they did. So, I'd walk the streets and people would go, there's the guy on Global. You're the guy on Global. You're Jim Taddy. No, it's the other guy. But
and you would say, yes, guy. You go, no, guy. I'm not Jim Taddy. Hey, who is your favorite?
I wouldn't say that.
Because he'd send you an invoice, maybe. Who are your favorite sportscasters? I'm just name check your favorite.
All right, so I got a list here of just all the ones that I so ready? I'm ready. Like on CTV, which is CFTO, which is Channel 9, Cable 8, which was, had. So I grew up with Johnny Esau, Pat Marsden, Fergie Olver, Dan Matheson, Sunil. I didn't grow up with, and then and then later Sunil Joshi, Stu Bundy, Lance Brown, Joe Tilley, George Bryson, Claude Faig, Jerry Dobson. All right. And then on CBC, Brian Williams, Kenny Daniels was there for years, John Badham, Bruce Dobiggin, Paul Lethbridge, Earl McRae, right? All these guys at some point were zipped through there. Debbie Lytle Kwong did it. Yes, there's just lots. Now, some of them ended up going to this was the confusion. Some of them ended up going to the network. So, so Brian Williams did local sports on CBLT in Toronto, but then he also did network stuff later, okay, and ended up leaving the local to do network stuff. You mentioned Jim McKenny at City TV. How about Dave Reynolds, John Saunders, Peter Gross, Greg Manziuk, Jim Taddy, Russ Salzberg, Debbie Van Kiekebelt, Ann Romer, Mary Garofalo, Catherine Humphreys.
Well,
how's that for a lineup?
Ask McKenny how he lost his gig. He just said Catherine Humphreys was so damn good, he was done. It was Catherine Humphreys took his gig.
Yeah. And CHCH had Dick Beddoes, Fred Anderton, Kathy Renwald, Paul Hendrick. I mean, you're talking about these people, anywhere they went, you're recognized. You're on the anchor desk, man. Now it's time for sports.
And they're all gone now, except for Bubba. Bubba's still doing it.
They're not local sportscasters, right? They're in all the sportscasters now are on TSN and Sportsnet. They're not working for a local station. Now, some of their stuff is seen on CP24 or City, or you know what I mean? Whatever the affiliation is with Rogers or Bell. Right. But these are network anchors. There are no more local sports anchors.
So dumb question. Obviously this shows why they died, I suppose, that I have no idea. But if you're watching global news today, the Toronto Global News, is there no sports, or they just have the anchor read it?
No, they got rid of Anthony Bruno and what's her name? Oh, I can't think of it, and I apologize again. I can't think of the name. Okay. But anyway, I remember a while ago, I think probably in the last year, I had announced that Global Television will no longer have its sportscasts. Right?
Sad, Hebsy. How do you feel about this? Is it just this is just the nature of the world, and we've all gone to apps now and instant gratification? It's sad that the anchors are gone.
The inevitability of death.
Oh, good call.
Mike, it's been 5 years since, they said, okay, you're too old or whatever, and bye-bye. I was doing a sports show with Bubba. They kept Bubba along, okay, which is great for them. And they still do a lot of local stuff in the Hamilton, Halton, area. But in Toronto, no. There's no local. I mean, the only local stuff is the network people talk, at the Raptors practice, the Leafs practice, the Jays BP post game, and all that, of course, flows into their programming. I mean, we want you to watch 3 hours of hockey or basketball or baseball on our network tonight. So we're going to give you all this stuff on our sportscasts. And then after the game, we're going to give you all the post game stuff.
And that's cross marketing, essentially.
And as you know, Mike, and the thing I've already railed against it, and that is, unfortunately, is that, the way sports is treated, you got to go to the sports network. You cannot depend on the local television stations to give you anything of any substance at all. And even the sports networks, they know where their bread is buttered. We're going to give you as much time as possible on the teams that we cover. We own the Blue Jays. We're going to give you wall-to-wall Blue Jay coverage. Maybe not as much. Well, we do cover the Raptors as well, and the Leafs, but not as much. You know what I mean? Because we're splitting it with TSN. And if you're TSN, you're not going to TSN for baseball stuff. Nothing against Steve Phillips and, their anchors know their baseball, but not like at Sportsnet. Sportsnet's got all the baseball people because they do the game. So you're not going to TSN to get your latest Blue Jay news. Am I right?
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And by the way, and this just doesn't in Toronto, listen, in Vancouver, guys like Don Taylor, Paul Carson, Bernie Pascal, Dave Randorf, same thing. These guys were superstars. Okay. Dinner hour sports, evening, 6 and 11. In Edmonton, you had guy Dutchy, who's now he's on with Jen Hedger. I think the two of them still are the late, the 11 o'clock sports center anchors, but I think they're on earlier now. I think they're on right after the game if there's a game. And then they reset. They reboot for 11 o'clock, I think. It depends if they've got a late game. Al McCann was another one I remember watching from CTV in Edmonton. In Winnipeg, Joe Pascucci, Peter Young. In Calgary, Grant Pollock, Mike Toth, Ken Newens. In Ottawa, Brian Smith, the late Brian Smith, who was shot and killed in the parking lot of CJOH television because the madman recognized him. I recognized him. I know that guy from television. I watch him. Boom. Fuck.
Wow.
In Montreal, Ron Rouche. For years, CFCF Sports, Ron Rouche. Okay. George Athens, the water skier. He was on the CBC Montreal. So like all over, this is the way it is. And I'm sure you can name I don't watch enough Buffalo news anymore, but I don't, do they still have the local sports casters, or is it a separate show? Or, I don't know. Anyway, so that's there it is. A very interesting article by John Wertheim in Sports Illustrated about the death of the local sports anchor. The local sports anchor used to rule, right? Mm-hmm. It's sort of like what's the movie with Will Ferrell?
Anchorman.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, a little over the top, but basically that was it. They're very well known news, weather, and sports, right?
So this,
and then you'd sprinkle in entertainment later. The Brian Linehan, and now City TV news, weather, sports, entertainment with Brian Linehan, politics with Colin Vaughn. Add a few other little things, but for years it was news, weather, and sports. News, weather, sports, in that order. And then after sports, maybe, and a final word on the weather before we go. And here's our kicker story, and goodbye. Good night, everybody.
So this begs the question, Hebsy, how long will these sports desk, I guess they're called Sports Center now, but these sports desk type programs go? Like, I'm always kind of surprised that these are still aired on the two sports networks.
Oh, forever. No, forever. It's the easiest thing in the world. You just put you on a desk and say, here's what you're going to show people if in case they missed it. But the best part of it is, Mike, is you've got, and not the best part, I've had to do this, but not as much as the anchors today. You're waiting for the game to be over because you're on the air. So you're Canada Ivanka and you're waiting. Now the Jays game goes to extra innings and whatever. It doesn't matter what time it is. You're going to be on as soon as the game is over. So you're waiting and you're waiting. And now they go to extra innings and you're waiting and you're waiting and stand by. Okay, the game's over. So now within, I'm going to say 45 seconds of that game, that final pitch and the final out being recorded, you're on standby. Okay, I got 45 seconds. 45. You got 45. Okay, Dan Schulman and Buck Martinez. Thank you very much for joining us. Here's the high fives as the team comes off the field. Blah, 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 da, da, da. Now let's go to Sports Center, or let's go to Sports Central with Ken and Ivanka. Boom. And now, hi, everybody. Oh, that was a terrible game. Too bad the Jays lost it, or whatever. Da, 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 da. And now the producer's in their ear, okay, saying, stand by. Okay, send it to Hazel. Off we back to Jamie. Or whatever the case is, back to the ballpark. They know this is it's a formulaic. Okay, it's okay, fine. Now we go back to the ballpark, right? And if they're not ready to go back to the ballpark, they go, okay, let's see highlights of the game you were just watching, because they're all queued up and ready to go. So either you go back to the ballpark, right, to Jamie if they're doing it there, or you go to Hazel if she's on the field, or not a rash this year. It's going to be Arden's Welling. But this is your own. It's a little tap dance. It's a little bit of a high wire act. Okay, are we ready to go live? Are we going live? Are we not? Oh, y'all got 7 minutes because we've got another game coming up at the top of the hour. So there's this song and dance that goes on all the time. It's not fun. And then it's like, okay, here's highlights of the game you just watched. And now, okay, let's cut out of those highlights because we've got Hazel on the field with Vladdy. So they go to that. Now they come back to the desk. Now they finish the highlights off. Now they've got the rest of their package. They go, okay, for those of you watching on Sportsnet, whatever, you've got the Flames against the Canucks. See you later. For those of you who are watching on the main network, stick around. We've got more sports. And for those of you who are watching on Sportsnet East, we got the Habs playing the Vegas Golden Knights. Bye. That's not like what we used to do. Uninterrupted, 30 minutes, highlights, commentary, sports stories. There you go. Not this tap dance. Okay, you got 2 minutes. Okay, cut this one short because we got to go back live. We're going to show highlights of the game that everybody just sat through for 3.5 hours. Because that's the way they do it. Because they want you to stick around, because they want you to stick around to go back to the ballpark for the post-game interview and post-game commentary. So they've got you for 4 hours. That's what they want. They can run those ads and you can be a zombie at the end going, I am going to go and sign up with the Royal Bank because Austin Matthews is on those commercials riding a motorcycle and telling a guy, what's the line that he uses? It's the most annoying thing. What does he say? Austin Matthews on those commercials.
I have no idea.
Get it right or something like that. Say whatever the expression. Stupid commercial. Like, oh, God, we got to sit through all this. And that's the way it is. That's the way it is nowadays in sports. You're going to get your sports. You can find it on multiple platforms whenever you want, live on your device. You're not sticking around to watch Sports Center, are you? Right? They got to keep.
You said that's the way it is in sports these days. I thought you were going to flip your pen.
And that's it for episode 326 of Hebsy on Sports. There may not be an episode 327, especially if the powers that be saw me flip that pen. I think I'll be okay. Thanks to Toronto Mike for production and inspiration. As always, hit him up at Toronto Mike and listen to his excellent podcast. He's got great guests on that show. Thanks for allowing us into your headspace. Back with another exciting episode next week. Until then, so long for now.